joining me, and we're celebrating 10 years of marriage, and we're asking the question, is marriage the goal? So, see what you think by the time we're done. All right, well, here we are. I'm drinking coffee, some Costa Rican coffee that was pre-ground when I got it.
And I'm kind of morning sick, so I'm trying not to smell it.
So I'll drink my coffee over here. It's pretty good.
Ordinarily, I love the smell of coffee, but this has been a rougher pregnancy for coffee.
So
I have to flee the kitchen while he's making it.
She does not like the smell of my coffee anymore. So we, in thinking through 10 years of marriage and how our thoughts and what we have done, how it changes, we haven't changed a whole lot, we think, and then we'll sometimes look back at ourselves and discover, well, we've grown. We've definitely grown. So we've always been opinionated, and sometimes we were right.
And we both had quite a journey leading to marriage, which most people do, and especially as they get married later in life. They've had lots of experiences. So we definitely had a lot of opinions of how not to do things and things that were important, things that were not important when it came to getting married. So,
and we had we both grew up in conservative Christian circles, and so, we got married 10 years ago, which was not quite the peak, but was very close to the peak of the time when a lot of our contemporaries in the conservative Christian circle had very specific formulas on how to get married, what courtship should look like, what language you should use, what we're okay to do together before you're married, what you shouldn't do, and all of those kinds of things. And once we were married, we actually gave this talk a few times where we shared this little illustration that we want to sketch for you with a few people, because we were trying to sort through everything that we'd heard, everything we'd learned, everything we'd experienced, and say, well, what really is the goal?
What was helpful?
Yeah, what's helpful? What is not helpful? And so, some of the books that 10 years ago we were talking about when we discussed this, and since then their authors have come out and said, well, we don't believe that anymore, and then they've gone on and sometimes denied the faith. So we are still within the conservative Christian circles. We are probably more liberal than our conservative friends and more conservative than our Christian friends, or our conservative friends. And we have we have areas where we look at it and say, well, we are not truly understanding the heart of God on this issue. And so we've been growing and trying to understand how best to serve Jesus in America, in the conservative Christian circles, while loving the whole world. So
yes,
here we are, 10 years later, 4 boys and one we don't know what on the way. I'm hoping for a girl, but another child on the way. And,
And we have absolutely loved marriage, and we pursued it hard beforehand. We really thought it was something good, that we agreed with the Bible, that it was a good thing to be sought after. And so we've loved to also interview people and hear their stories and to glean from their experiences on what was helpful, what was not helpful.
Uh-oh, I see William coming his way in here. What's going on, William?
He doesn't know
Okay.
what he was mad about. I do know what he was mad about.
So William was having a problem
You want to
outside.
come with Mama and help me?
Okay.
And then my go that my go. Switching sandboxes. I was building stuff in the
All right, Peter, we'll solve it later, okay?
You can go ahead.
All right, can you reach it? Do you need something to stand on there? All right, William, you can do a little bit of sketching, but Mama and I are also going to draw something. So this was the talk that we were doing 10 years ago to encourage young people to consider what we're talking about in marriage. What does it mean? Why? And we're not going to just talk about marriage today. We have life in general that we want to talk about, but we wanted to talk about marriage to start with here. So, in the beginning, this is where our talk starts. You're going to have to be able to draw, Mama. So, all right. William is drawing a lake with some things in it. Okay, let's see if we can get this over where. So we started out. Let's here. William, you're going to have to let Mommy draw, okay? Let's start over, buddy. So let's see where we have to end up. So we need to end up somewhere right here. And so William, you can draw right here in this box. That's William's drawing part, okay? All right, so let's see if we can do this. Oh my. So we started out just discussing, because this is where we start. First, I was a single guy. Let's see if I can draw myself here. I was a single guy. I grew up in a Christian home. I had 2 loving parents who were trying to raise me up to follow God. So that was where I'm starting from. This is my point A. And you can kind of see that there. Okay. And then Stacie, you were... I need a different color marker, though, because
mine's darker.
Yours is much more visible than mine. Let's see
I
that.
really had fantastic parents when it came to this. They vision cast for us kids that they wanted to help us and guide us in making a choice about our spouses, but they were very reasonable. My dad disagreed with some of the overly strict teachings that were out there. And he said, ultimately this is you and your spouse for the rest of your life. And so he was very reasonable.
So our goal here was to go from being single people to being married. So let's see. This is me for the wedding. Stacie, can you add yourself up there? I know you have.
So
You've got William on your hands. Oh my, I don't remember you looking that way when we got married. All right, so this was where we were headed, but in the meantime, we were both single. We were trying to figure out how to get married in a godly way, and at that time, I had been studying this. I don't know how many books I read. I'd listened to a lot of talks. I wanted to get married the right way. And so I had created a list of what she must be. And so I had this list of everything that I wanted in a girl. And I was creating this whole long list. But then...
You're going to tell them one of the trickiest things? She had to be former Amish.
Well, at the beginning, I was really thinking I needed someone who was former Amish. And through some rough waters that I walked through, eventually one day I was praying, and God clearly, like not audible voice, but just clear as crystal, gave me this question. He said, do you want someone who has been where you've been, or do you want someone who is going where you're going? And if you put it that way, I definitely wanted someone who was going with me where I was going, and it changed my heart on one of these. And so I had this whole long list of the girl that I wanted to marry. But on top of that, I had basically a whole nother book on the proper way of how to get married. And so I was like, and this book, by the way, was not the Bible. And so my journey from here to there, I was not just using the Bible. I had made a book, and again, it was not a literal book, but it was a figurative book that I had so many rules and so many ways to properly get married. And that was going to be my courtship experience. There was one right way, and I was going to do it that way. And so, for Stacie, where were you in this? You were just sharing this a minute ago.
Right. So I didn't have a list. My parents encouraged us not to do this very often. They said, apart from the fact that he passionately loves God, if that's what you are also, if you passionately love God, you want to marry someone along that line. But they said you could write down potential preferences, but my dad had one of my sisters write down, before she got married, write down a list, and then he told her to burn it. And he said, you are marrying this person no matter what your list was, and you're going to commit to them. They passionately love God, and that's what you're after. So I didn't have a list, but I had done something that I wasn't aware that I was doing, which is that I would meet different people, and I'd be like, That guy gets up at 5 every morning and goes jogging. That would be awesome to have in a husband. This guy really knows how to dance really well. That would be really fun to have in a husband. Oh, and that guy works super hard and really is thrifty in the way he spends money. And I would love to have that in a husband. And so subconsciously, I was building a straw man of all the best personality traits that I had seen in various guys. And I all knew they were possible, each individual little piece of them, but there would be no one man that had all of these characteristics.
So she made Superman. But it was true. So you had like all these ideas of
Right, just expectations vaguely in my mind of like, this would be really
Thank you, William.
ideal.
Good job, William.
And I don't know that I could have written them all down on a list.
So I had a list. She had this straw man or this giant here. And so when we actually get down to get married and we come here, there were several things that had to happen in order to come here. One, and in our talk, when we're talking with young people, we of course go into the dynamics of family, into how your parents interact with you, how your parents interact with your future spouse, what the wedding day looks like, and all that stuff. But the big thing that I remember sort of coming to that helped me get rid of the huge list and of my beautiful book. I need some red something so I can draw flames on it, because that would have been a book that I would have burned very gladly. But what came to me that started making a huge difference in my perspective, and that is then what helped Stacie and I, even as we were talking about marriage, was, here is your average, well, this is going to be our lifespan here, right? So here's when we're born, and over here...
If we average, what are you going to do, 80 years?
So I don't know.
70 years.
So there's our tombstone. So if you look at us here, we have, like, I was, most of us spend, 15 to 20 years, 15 to 25 years, I don't know, in our
round it off to 20.
Our childhood. So if this is 20 years. Singleness, our childhood up. So then, once we meet the person to the time we get married, based on our personal research and experience, is anywhere from 2 months
2 weeks.
Oh, 2
Our shortest couple that we know about, it was 2 weeks from when they met until they were married.
2 weeks to 5 years or something, right? So this time we have a 2 week to 5 years. And then how long is marriage? Well, it's till death do us part. So
anywhere from, a year or two if you have a tragedy to 50 plus.
Yeah, so it can whatever that's not the right thing, but that 50 plus. So it's up to 50 plus. I mean, I have friends right now that last weekend, just 2 days ago, they were celebrating their 50th anniversary. That is so awesome. So if I take this and I put it here and I say, okay, well, if this whole thing
80.
is 80 years, then okay, so this first part of my life right here would be 20 years. Oh, my handwriting is... And so then, if this went all the way up to 5 years, that would be like somewhere like right here, would be my 5 years of getting married. And then I'm married for this next... Well, that's 55 years. I'll take it. Okay. We got 55 years, honey. That's what we got. So if you look at it this way, and you say, well, what is the... This was the question I came to for myself, and then this was the question I started asking other people, was, what is the longest period of my life here? And so I have to say, well, it's this side, all things else being equal, it's this length of life, the time that I'm married. And then you would have to ask me up here, saying, well, which of these do you have the most thoughts, plans, rules, regulations, and law about how to do it properly? Which one of these have you idealized the most? And I would have said, well, I'm spending the most time thinking about how to do these 5 years to get a gold star. Like, that was the goal. I wanted to do this so perfect and so right, and that was what I was thinking about. And so then the problem with that goal was that whenever I would talk with a girl and wanted to get married, and I would try to explain what my goals in life were, I could talk endlessly about the proper way of doing courtship. But if she wanted to know what the future held over here, I wasn't talking much about that. I didn't have a clear direction and goal of where I was going. And so I was spending all my list, all my books, all of my energy on how to do this 5 years
Can we change
correctly.
that? That's paining me.
What's hurting you?
5 years. We only know like 1 or 2 people who ever did that.
Well, but still.
I'm going to say on average people are like 1.5.
That is an average for America.
For
For
Americans.
conservative Christians, it's 1.5, 2.5, something. But
For
anyway,
us, it was like less than 6 months.
yes.
From meeting
So-
to marriage.
I know, I just was using the biggest possible number, but it was
just
still small.
Hurting my heart. Think of taking 5 years to.
And so the huge issue was that I was spending all of my energy and like trying to find all the proper scripture and everything for the smallest joint in my life, for that little direction. And what we discovered together was if we honor our parents, and both of our parents, we honor God and we honor each other, then we can be preparing for this. And so Stacie and I spent most of our conversations in those early days. We weren't talking about this. We're in courtship. We were talking about marriage, life goals. What did we want to be doing in 10 years from now? What did we want to have 10 years down the road? And it made a big difference. And I actually have, this was now 10 years ago, Stacie made a 10-year plan. I think I have it in here. And so,
This is what my father had us do. We weren't supposed to maybe write down all the qualifications of what we wanted in a spouse, but we did not want to. He wanted us to know where we were going. What were we passionate about? What did we value? What were our goals?
so this is, Stacie said, what do I want to be? This is something I asked for when we got married. She said, I want to be a wife and mother, teacher, public speaker, director, production designer, actress. What do I want to do? Get married, homeschool my kids, teach, speak, make movies and direct plays, act in plays and movies. So this is the kind of thing she was thinking about. So 10 years later, what are we doing? We're living the dream. We're doing what she wanted to do. Now, what's amazing about this is the amount of work that it takes in here to apologize to each other, to confess our faults to one another, to strengthen each other, to truly equip each other is tremendous. And if we, as young people, if I would have spent as much time preparing for this part as I did for this part, that would have been awesome. I would love it.
Right. On the other hand, I would have friends who would be like, let's pick out the colors that we want our bridesmaids' dresses and all of that. And I was just so not into that. I was like, let's pick out what colors we're going to decorate our house in. We pick out the colors for our kitchen. And this was real practical because my aunts and uncles would give us gifts for our house one day. And they would ask, they would say, what colors are you planning to use in your kitchen? Because we want to buy you various kitchen things. My grandma, even when I was a teenager, she began to gift us very, very nice sets of silverware. So she took us when I was, 14, 15. I went to the silverware shop, looked over all the designs, and picked one out. It was kind of big. I was like, this is what I'm going to use the rest of my life in our family. And sure enough, that's what we're using now. And then every birthday and Christmas,
we've even added to it since then.
she would give me another set of those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it always was, yeah. I never picked out who was going to be my bridesmaids. I was like, oh, that might change. But I would pick out names that I liked for kids. And
So this is very similar to a lot of things, though, is because, and now when we talk to young couples as we're preparing them for marriage, one of the things we discuss is how the wedding day itself is like a door that is entering into the, as Peter Marshall used to say, the highest halls of human happiness. Like it's the doorway. The wedding is the doorway. So you can plan and do all you want and make the door as beautiful and as ornate and as lovely as possible, but it's still going to be just the doorway. And what's on the other side of the door really matters. And it matters for the long term. And so, it's true, you want to have a door, you want to enter in, but you really care about what's on the other side of the door. And so
You don't live in the doorway.
you don't live in the doorway. And what I was sort of doing was, if you think of a beautiful mansion and, the street goes by, and so the street is a little bit close now, and so there's a short walkway up to the front door of the mansion. You go through the mansion, there's a huge house with many rooms, and then you have all the lawns and the gardens on the back of the mansion. That's the way I picture my life. Well, I spent a lot of time fussing about the composition and the construction of that front little walkway going from the road to the front door. That's where I spent my time, and it wasn't healthy. It didn't help me, because once I got into the mansion, I had to figure out how to live in the house of marriage. And that's what the last 10 years has been about, is me learning how to be a man and a husband and a father and
the architect of a house.
Yes. How do we love each other in the daily grind? And
Right. So our advice now to young people about that time, that short phase in their life, is honor God and honor each other, and to the best of your ability, honor your parents.
and your families.
And it's going to look so different.
Each time. Every story is a little different.
It's not that shorter's better, longer's better. A particular way of meeting, marrying someone you've always known all of your life, or someone you just met. God uses all of those. It's honoring the Lord through that relationship.
That's what's really important. And what we tell young people is, when you're thinking about your life, and if you want to get married, then you need to act as if the goal was marriage, because it is. The goal isn't the perfect courtship. That's what I thought it would be. The goal isn't the most beautiful wedding day. That's what some of your friends, what you felt like when you were a teenager, that they were always working
Right.
toward. But the goal is marriage. The goal is that relationship. And this is really the case for so many things. It tickles me because, we live in a society where we ask, what is the entry cost? So, for instance, if we want to buy a property or a car or something, we look at, what is the monthly cost? And we say, well, I have that much right now. I can do that right now. And we will get ourselves into a car deal, or some people, maybe you do it on a couch or furniture or television or something. But you look at the upfront cost, like, oh, I can do that. And not realizing what the monthly maintenance will be, what the monthly costs will be, and you'll have to continue to pay that until it's all the way done. And so you'll get yourself into the door and then not have thought through the rest of the time. And so I feel like that is a perennial problem, and it may be a human problem. I often think of it as an American problem, but it probably is a human problem, where we are quick to try to jump through the door and then be like, oh, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I didn't fully count the cost.
And then halfway through the daily grind, start second-guessing ourselves.
Well, like with a car, you can be suddenly making payments on the car and fixing it, and you're like, I didn't think I'd have to fix a car if I was making payments on it. Well, you might. You never know. So it's important to count the cost. And really, this is a lot like Christianity. We have... it can be, we can get so focused on trying to get people to just enter the door. Here, pray this prayer. Here, pray this prayer. And what's that line?
And you got to say the right words in the prayer.
And what's that line in the play? It's in Pilgrim, right? When he's asking his friend to go with him.
Oh.
What is that?
With Pliable.
Yeah,
When
Pliable
he tells
comes
him all
along.
about heaven and how grand it's going to be, and they're going to feast, and it's going to be amazing, and he's looking at the end of the road.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Pilgrim is telling Pliable,
So he's so
come with
Pliable's-
me. It's going to be the best food. It's going to be the best everything.
Pliable's like, great, I'm hungry. And as they're walking along, so like, how soon do you think we're going to get there? Like in an hour? And
Like, how
Christian's-
long do we have to keep walking?
And Christian's like, so yeah, that was for the rest of your life, actually. And he's like, for the rest of my life? When were you going to tell me that little detail? And we can be that way a little bit with Christianity, too. It's not just about saying the prayer, and yay, you get heaven. It's the rest of your life. That's the daily grind of walking with God and living with Him and making every choice of your life in light of His realities and His laws.
Oh, there's William. So we have this... Okay, just a minute, William. So we have this opportunity when we share the gospel to not just talk about the door. The door is wonderful, by the way, because it's Jesus himself. However, Jesus is also the way. And so we talk, and he is the life.
And he
so
is the end. He's the goal.
The beginning and the end. He is everything. And so in our Christianity, when we're discussing our faith, when we're talking about what we're doing, we need to not just talk about the very beginning and try to get people in the door. We need to be honest and open and discuss the whole life vision of what God is doing and what he's calling us to. And then we will have I think, a healthier expectation and better preparation in our hearts, a more complete surrender. Because if I just have to surrender long enough to pray this prayer, and maybe get baptized, and maybe join this church, and then I can go back to living however I want, then that's going to be a problem. But if I see it as, this is a lifetime surrender, okay, can I surrender my whole life? Well, actually, we all can surrender our whole life. We don't all want to, but we all can. And that's the biggest part of Christianity, is that complete surrender for the rest of our life. And who knows? It might be a year, it might be 50 years left or more. We don't know what our life will be. But we want to focus on more than just the doorway. So, what's your favorite part about marriage?
Having kids.
It's true. Oh, and the really funny thing was, we were married for about a year and a half or so, and she just always wanted to she was so social in the way she would interact. She just wanted to be with me for everything. Like, let's cook breakfast together, let's do everything together. And I was a little more withdrawn. I'm like, I need a little space in my life. Like, I need sometimes when it's just quiet and it's just me. And so I was really looking forward to the day when we'd have a child, so that she would have one other person in the family to do some things with. She has since gotten a lot better about giving me some space.
Well, I have 4 kids now.
And I've gotten better about coming close to her and doing things with her. But we've had to work together on that. And it's true, she has 4 kids that will talk with her, which is awesome. Sometimes now, when I want to talk, she's busy talking to the kids. But it's true. I love the relationships that grow out of marriage. Like, this is awesome, but then the first time I went to an event with young people in it after we were married, I suddenly realized I have answered the question. I'm not looking for a wife anymore. I don't have to be anxious. I don't have to be on edge. I can just be here. And it was so much fun. I could look people in the eye and chat with them and enjoy people, because I wasn't looking for a spouse. I had one already.
Yes.
And so that was awesome. That was an awesome part of getting married.
Having that question answered is such a blessing too.
And that, I think, is part of why we talk about all of this in faith, in anything we do. We need to think about the long term, so that when we answer the question, we can be at rest in our decision and in where we've walked. So,
yeah.
So those are some of my thoughts for today. It's been an awesome 10 years. Probably, I've lived 4 10-year periods now. And these last 10 years are one of my absolute favorites. I think it's my best time of my life. At least the most fruitful for the kingdom. I did really enjoy my first 10 years being a kid. Each of them has been good in a different way. But the last 10 years of being married, absolutely awesome. I highly recommend it. But at the same time, you gotta be willing to die to yourself and allow God to make you holy, because otherwise it hurts a lot. So,
there's freedom, though. There's
a
freedom
lot
in
of
getting rid of the flesh. And
Oh.
marriage is fantastic for getting rid of the flesh. So.
yes, it's like a full-length mirror. It's like a light. You can't hide things in the dark anymore. You just gotta deal with it. And then when you know that it's there, you bring it to Christ. He brings healing and forgiveness and transformation. It's awesome.
Yes.
So, thanks for joining me today on this coffee talk. Even though she didn't like to smell coffee right now, the coffee is good. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, until next time, we will see you guys. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us today.